I think I've found the most comfortable ergonomic style chair that you can buy right now, and it's this, the HBADA E3. I mean, despite being one of the most alien looking ergonomic chairs I've ever reviewed, this thing is super comfortable and super adaptable. So much so that even with me being 6'8", I can change and customize it to fit me perfectly to make one of the most comfortable office chair experiences that I've ever had. Now, almost everything about this is adjustable in some way, but let's start by talking about the setup. Now, everything was labelled and all of the tools and screws were provided in a clearly marked container, and it was all very straightforward. It perhaps came in more parts than I'd like, but it wasn't exactly a complicated setup, and it probably meant that the box could be a lot smaller as everything was packed tightly and arranged for transit. Now, other than that, I've got nothing really to report on the setup phase, but as for the actual usage, this is where things get spicy, and I want to start by talking about the back assembly. Now, normally I've been used to chairs that have a lumbar support and backrest, all built into one, often with adjustable depth of lumbar and nearly always with adjustable height of the back. But because the lumbar and the back are often joined together, it's always meant that the lumbar support rises whenever you elevate the back, or falls when you lower it. And this doesn't always translate well for people like me. Giants. The lumbar ends up either too high or just far too low. Well, the E3 is a very rare example of where the lumbar height is independently adjustable from the backrest height, which results in a comfort level that far exceeds many options out there because it allows you to get that perfect fit. This in itself is a fantastic addition to the chair, but they've gone even further with the lumbar support. This could go the furthest I've ever seen. Not only can you change the height of the lumbar, but also the depth of the support too. Again, another part of this chair that helps ultimately create a really tailored experience. But they don't even stop there, because they also allow you to wrap the lumbar support around your back with the two wings either side of the main pad. Again, which makes it truly adaptable to your personal body shape. I think this is the first time that I've ever seen a lumbar that has adjustable wings, but I can tell you that it translates to a really snug feel despite the overall width of this chair being sufficient for people of much larger sizes. And lastly, it's got a spring to the lumbar, both from the material used, which I'll discuss in a little while, but also because it has an actual spring in the mechanism, letting it cushion and adapt to the pressure applied. Now, this amount of adjustability in the lumbar alone, as far as I'm concerned, I've seen nothing like it before, and it looks like HBADA have kept this theme of ultimate adjustment right the way through the rest of the chair. Take the arms, for example. These can go up and down, or twist in and out, slide in and out, or go backwards and forwards. Or there's a little secret here. By pressing this little button on the side, you can actually raise the front portion upwards to two other locked angles. Now, at first, I was a bit perplexed by this. I just couldn't work out why. I mean, it doesn't really offer much more flexibility for pushing it under desks, for example. And it doesn't exactly make using my mouse and keyboard easy either. And when reclined, the only thing it's useful for is supporting my hands during my royal wave. But one night, after several glasses of whiskey, I loaded up my PlayStation and I realised exactly what this is for. They give you much more support when gaming and playing on controller. And if I was using something with a screen like a Steam Deck or Switch, then it gives you more support to bring it closer to your face so you can play it for longer and more comfortably. So in fact, these get a big thumbs up for ingenuity, and are the first armrests I've tried which support your arms when raised whilst gaming. Now, there's one other thing that they've added with this same level of insane adjustment, and that's the headrest. Like everything on this chair, HBADA have added more adjustments than I've ever seen before in a headrest. Not only is it absolutely massively wide for those with freakishly wide heads. You can move it up and down, you can change the angle of it, and like the lumbar support, you can even change the depth of it, moving it forwards and backwards, which is crazy. So if you happen to have a head that's almost an entire foot in front of your back, then you're in luck. Now the seat base is also adjustable, letting you slide it forward to make more room for people with long legs like myself. And I will come out here and I will say that this is the most leg support I've been able to get out of a one-size-fits-all chair when pulled right the way forward. And with the armrests out and lumbar unfolded, this chair is so unbelievably roomy, I couldn't quite believe it. It's even ideal for people of larger sizes, which is very interesting for a design choice, because usually you'd have to buy an XL version to fit bigger people. So the fact that they've made this so adaptable is particularly inclusive. Now, underneath the seat base, you've got the traditional control mechanism, which is essentially built into the tilt mechanism. This tilt mechanism is unusual because HBADA claim that this is an auto-gravity sensing reclining mechanism which can withstand up to 240 kilograms of weight, but will sense when you're wanting to recline and releases the pressure to allow you to do so. Now, I've got to say that it works remarkably well. And whereas I was initially a bit skeptical that it didn't have a tensioner, I've actually found it sort of matches really well to what I want to do in respect to reclining. I don't think it's perfect, and I guess I'd have liked some kind of tension adjustment, but for something that's quite new and quite innovative, I think they've made a really interesting step into getting rid of the need for a tensioner altogether. But the last thing underneath the chair is a hidden footstool. Now, this isn't necessarily a new thing. They've been around for the past few years, and more chairs are starting to have them. But what I will say is that because of the large depth adjustment on the seat base, it's meant that the footrest on this has offered me more support than I've ever had from an ergonomic chair with built-in footrest, because overall it makes it longer, so that's a couple of extra brownie points right there. And talking about support, the materials they've used are very comfortable, yet very supportive. For the most part, it's a rugged mesh-like material, and it's just elasticated enough to offer that kind of cushion feel, but not enough to sacrifice the overall support that ergonomic chairs are designed to offer. Now, this is accented by a pleather cushion section in both the lumbar and the footrest, and furthermore, this is all stretched and applied to a frame which has a very slight speckling to it that makes the light bounce off it and sort of glow. Now, this version is the grey option, but they've also got it in black too. The frame, however, unfortunately stays the same. It's just the material that changes. Now, interestingly, they also sell a version without the footrest that's slightly cheaper and has a slightly different headrest from looking at the pictures too. But on that point, everything is very modular, and you can remove bits that you don't need. So if you're like me and won't need a headrest, removing this won't necessarily look out of place and doesn't leave gangly bits hanging all over. But that's not the only thing that's modular. Now, as a consideration here, I think the armrests feel quite pronounced in that it sort of forces you to sit back from the desk, more so than other chairs that I've featured in the past. I'd perhaps love to see a future iteration with more retractability on the armrest to allow me to sit a bit closer to my taste. But I guess it's probably doing my eyes a favour, forcing me to sit at least a proper distance away from the monitor. But going back to the modular style of this chair, I could, if I wanted, entirely remove the arms from this seat and it wouldn't look out of place to do so because of the way it joins up on the underneath, which I really, really like. There are many situations where having arms on chairs causes an inconvenience. Perhaps you're a guitarist or work somewhere where you have to get up and down all the time. This flexibility to remove the arms will prove very useful for certain people indeed. Actually, there's another thing I'd like to see from HBADA in future, and that's a slightly taller piston. I've been absolutely amazed at the overall adjustability of the E3, and it's such a rarity to see a brand make something that's capable of working for taller people. Now, given that the chair is so adaptable and suitable for tall people, this is one bit that I think they could go a little bit further with to make it completely adaptable to people of all heights and working styles. albeit I could probably just buy a taller piston and replace it. I think seat pistons are very much generic. And then again, this is a very me comment. Considering that I'm 6'8", I think most people will be more than happy with the height ranges. It's just something that I felt being so tall. Now, my final consideration on my wish list for the next iteration is that I would love to have the footrest be able to be locked into place. It's not the be-all and end-all, but when dragging it around, I find the footrest has a tendency to slide forward slightly. It's pretty inconsequential, and I just thought that I'd point it out. But putting those couple of things to one side, as this chair is right now, I would go as far as saying that this is the most comfortable ergonomic office chair that I've ever reviewed, and I think if they made a couple of slight tweaks to the formula, this could be utter perfection. Now, it's important to know that comfort is massively subjective. One person might find something incredibly comfy and the next person might sit on the same thing and have back pain for a decade. So everything I've shared today has been in my experience and in my opinion. Now, my stats are 6'8" in height and 100 kilograms in weight with a 38-inch waist. But if you want my foot size, you'll have to join my special site. But my measurements might help you determine how this will feel for you. But for me, it's an extremely comfortable ergonomic office chair, without a doubt. But how much are HBADA charging for this level of comfort? Well, its RRP, and it helps to say this fast here, is £899. Although saying that, when I checked, like everything always seems to be, it was down on discount down to £549, but I would advise checking the link below in the description for its current price. Now, I still can't get my head around the fact that ergonomic chairs are so expensive. I'll never be truly comfortable with that fact, but as I mentioned, for comfort alone, I think the HBADA E3 is one of the most comfortable ergonomic office chairs I've ever sat in, and that's even compared to some of the Herman Miller chairs that I've tried in the past, which are over double the price of this chair. So all things considered, at half the price of a Herman Miller chair, with twice the comfort, is not such a bad deal when you think of it like that. And actually, dare I say it, it's reasonably priced. I think with the extreme level of adaptability, good amount of comfort, and generally really great build quality, I truly think that HBADA are onto a winner here with the E3. What do you guys think of the HBADA E3? Do you think some of the innovations and features that differentiate itself from the rest of the market are groundbreaking or gimmicky? Let me know in the comments below so we can all have a good chinwag about it. And if, as always, if I have helped you decide if the HBADA E3 ergonomic chair is for you or not, then do return that favour, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys back for another episode of STU'S Reviews soon.